What's going on, guys? It's Nick Boletto from Boletto Brigade, and today in this video I want to talk to you guys about my new training system, the Conjugate Method. Now I want to give you a brief background on the Conjugate Method first, and I want to try and make this video as condensed and quick as possible because it is a complicated method of training. Now, the conjugate system comes out of Westside Barbell, which is the strongest gym in the world. It's a private gym, and by the strongest gym in the world, I mean it literally has dozens of members who can bench 500 pounds or deadlift 800 or even squat 1,000 pounds. Now, the owner of the gym and the creator of the conjugate method is Louis Simmons. Louis Simmons is an extremely strong and smart guy, so if you've never heard of him or you just want to learn more about him, I highly suggest you look him up and you will definitely learn a few things. Now, I am by no means an expert on the conjugate method. I have simply done a few hours of research and I have created my own conjugate-like method, and I've been running it for only a week so far. And to be perfectly honest, there are no experts on the conjugate method except Louis Simmons himself, because it is always changing, and Westside Barbell is kind of the gym equivalent to Alcatraz, because once you go in, you don't come out, and nothing ever comes out of Westside Barbell. So a lot of the information that is available on the conjugate method is simply stipulations and inferences based on just Louis Simmons' seminars and his teachings. So nobody is totally sure what exactly the conjugate method is, and it also varies person to person, which is a reason I was really interested in this system, because you can program it to yourself based on your weaknesses. Now, there's a lot of confusion on whether or not the conjugate method is beneficial for raw lifters, because it is designed to only be beneficial or to be most beneficial to geared lifters. And if you're not sure what a geared lifter is versus a raw lifter, pause the video and take some time, just look it up real quick. From my understanding, a raw lifter is somebody who uses only knee sleeves and wrist wraps, which is what I am. Geared lifters use knee wraps instead of knee sleeves. Oh, and also raw lifters can use a belt, of course. There's probably more gear that I'm unaware of, but that is my best understanding in a brief synopsis. So, like I said, the conjugate method is supposedly only beneficial for these geared lifters. However, guys like Garrett and Simon from Aesthetics, they run the conjugate method, and they are raw lifters as well as I am. One of my friends who I train with at the gym, he is a raw lifter, and he ran the conjugate method for over 2 years. He said that he saw great results from the conjugate method. However, he wishes that there was more volume involved, which I think is a common complaint about the conjugate method. However, I have been doing hypertrophy, high volume training for the majority of my lifting career, I guess you could call it. And I think one of my drawbacks on accelerating my progress in powerlifting is that I haven't practiced using high intensity very often. And the conjugate method is programmed so you are forced to use an 85 to 95% effort every single workout that you were putting in your maximal effort. Which brings me to the beginning of the explanation of the conjugate method. So essentially, you are training 4 days a week. These 4 days are split into a maximal effort for 2 days and a dynamic 2 days, and then the 2 days are split into upper and lower. So you always start with your lower. So day one of the week, every week, you're going to start with a squat or a deadlift variation, not both, one or the other, and you are going for a 1 to 3 rep max, quote unquote, anywhere from 80 to 95% of your 1 rep max, so an RPE of 8 to 9.5. And the key here is you say you are like me and you do low bar squats and conventional deadlift. So you would never do a low bar squat or a conventional deadlift in the conjugate method. Instead, you might do a normal high bar squat, or you might do a paused low bar squat. You might do a normal deficit deadlift, or you might do a normal from the floor sumo deadlift. The idea behind it is you're building all different parts of the lift, and then when you go ahead and you try to do your normal lift, you will have grown all the different aspects of the lift. It's easiest to see in the deadlift. If you build your deficit deadlift, you build your block pulls or your elevated deadlift, and you build your sumo deadlift, and you build your pause deadlift. That's all the different aspects of the entire total movement that you're building. And then the idea is when you do your normal one, you will become much stronger. So you do either one or the other, squat or deadlift, for a maximal effort, and then you move on to your accessory lifts. Typically you want to move from a compound, still pretty high intensity, maybe like a 3x3 or 3x5, onto your iso lateral movements, your one joint movements, at which you up the volume and decrease the intensity. Then on your upper maximal effort day, you pick a bench press variation. Now with the squat and deadlift, your variation changes week to week, but with the bench press, you stay with the same variation for 3 weeks in a row before you change the variation. Again, 1 to 3 reps, maximal effort, 80 to 95%, then you move into your accessory work. On your dynamic days, you're doing very light weights for very high sets and very low reps. For instance, I do 9x3 on my bench press days, on my upper dynamic days, and on my lower dynamic days, I'll typically do like an 8x2, maybe even a 10x2 on either the squat or the deadlift, depending on the week. You can choose any variation except for the squat. The squat has to be done onto a box. And like I said, you're using very light weights, and anywhere between 50% up to about 70%. They say for raw lifters with the squat, you want to go a little bit heavier to 65, maybe 75% of your 1 rep max. But for the most part, play it safe, do 55 to about 65% of your 1 rep max, and try out all different variations. Have some fun with the variations. I'm going to go over what I did in my week 1 of my conjugate method. So let's get into it. Alright guys, so we're going to work top to bottom and left to right. As you can see, on my max effort lower day, I went for the deficit deadlift for a 1 rep max, followed by front squat for a 3x5, glute ham raise for a 3x6, reverse hyperextension for 3x8, shrugs for 4x8, and pull-ups for 12, 12, 10, and 8. So as you can see, I moved from high intensity, low volume up to moderate weight and high volume. It is suggested that on your lower days in the conjugate method, you work your quads, glutes, hamstrings, lower back, lats, and traps. So I think I did a pretty good job of accommodating for all of this with this day. The deficit deadlift works a lot of hamstrings, lower backs, quads, and glutes, and that is your main movement, so it should be working everything. The front squat is mostly quads, a little bit of glutes as well. The glute ham raise, it says it in the name, it's mostly glutes and hamstrings. The reverse hyperextension is a lot of glutes and low back. The shrugs is for the traps, and the pull-ups for the lats. I really like the feel of this day. If I had any suggestions, I would say maybe throw in some leg extensions at the end to get some extra quad volume. Moving on to the max effort upper day, I went for a 3 rep max on the close grip pause bench press. Then I moved into a decline dumbbell row Shout out to Brandon Campbell for that one. 3x6. Then I moved into the standing OHP for a 3x8, trying to catch up to Matt Ogus in that one. Then I moved into close grip lat pull down. It doesn't say it, but I'm doing a close grip because I'm doing wider grip pull-ups for sets of 10, 8, and 8. Then I moved into a tricep push down because the pause bench press close grip is hitting the long head. The tricep push down hits the short head, and I'm trying to bring out my triceps. And I know it says face pulls, but I'm actually doing rear delt flies instead. Moving on to the dynamic lower, I already have the weights in there because it's based on percentages. So I did 220 pounds for an 8x2 in the sumo, and then I'm following it up with the same exact accessory work on both my lower and my upper days. And then I did close grip bench, not paused, for 9 sets of 3 at 135 pounds. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Hopefully you guys even give it a shot. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Peace.